go ahead and get the picks and bans, though, for game number 2. Flashpoint will be in the first pick spot here this time, and last time they had the OutCold banned away from them because they were in second pick. I wonder if OutCold can still do that with their ban spots, or if they're worried they'd give up too much.
I think it's still an option, and I think it's perhaps still the correct option.
Sure.
That said, OutCold Gaming do have the 1 victory, so if you're going to try and play around it, now would be the time. But right away we see, nope, not going to be the case. Yeah. Johnny on the spot with that one, so let's take it out.
It's not worth it, I mean, because he still was looking good on the Bakasura anyway, even in their loss, right? So make sure that you just try and give him as few options as possible. But I do like this Achilles ban from Flashpoint. In all honesty, it's something that should probably been there in game 1 too. But yeah, get this Achilles off the table. FrostiaK played it really well.
FrostiaK played this really well, and Dimi played the Yorm really well.
He did.
Both the desk and the commentators have mentioned it. We're here in unison saying the pressure on the right side of the solo lane allowed that win to kind of spiral out of control and go OCG's way, so ban out both characters.
Bellona now coming through for Dimi as well in a world where you can't pilot the Jormungandr, a strong pick with the Achilles and the Jormungandr out, and obviously we talked about this yesterday, King Arthur not available to be picked, so these are your premier solo laners. Merlin, though, is there for Flashpoint, so this is very strong, right? Give this to FaraKrik. We talked about how sometimes he can be kind of that facilitator for him when he plays like the Giannis style. This is entirely different. We're looking at my man FaraKrik to be able to knock down his shots.
And he can do it.
Yep.
He can absolutely do that. Going to bring Freya along for the ride as well. We like to see what happens with Kespainify and Fusify in that long lane. And with Fafnir across the way, this is just as much a pick for Flashpoint as it is a takeaway from OCG.
Well, I love Sibi's confidence too, going right back to the Sun Wukong, man. And you know what? Like a really good shooter, because I'm doing a bunch of basketball analogies today, man, you got to keep shooting sometimes, right? So Sibi's like, I'm good on this Sun Wukong. My team trusts me on it. Go right back to it.
Trust the high-volume shooters, baby.
Can't believe you somehow turned that into a JR compliment.
Hey, if you want to bring up J.R. Smith,
right? Yeah,
I did that.
That is my fault that happened.
I'm always down to celebrate.
Jing away picked up for OutCold, so they're keeping that one the same as well. Give that pick right back to Spudio. and really, for what it's worth, I mean, it makes some sense in that matchup. Obviously, can get out of the banish very well.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, Freya had the clear. Kespainify had the clear advantage. They even stole red right away when they pushed that first wave, and Spudio stayed cool and calm over there without a lot of help. So he did a really good job, I think.
And Jingwei is just so often picked because of how safe she is, not just against the Freya, but of course, you know, even against the Sun Wukong. The Ox is one of the better tools that Sun Wukong has when it comes to disrupting team fights. So Jingwei is able to kind of agility out of that as well. I really like the Jingwei pick. It's annoying that we kind of almost exclusively see her, but it's because she's just that damn good.
I get what you're saying. We do see a lot of Jingwei, as Zhang Kui's been banned here by Flashpoint, and they've really just turned an eye towards whatever they played that's still available last game. We're just going to ban that one out. They're banning the Kali themselves this time too, which is interesting. It was OutCold that banned that into Dzoni.
You know, it's interesting that you say that 3 out of the 5 selections from game number 1 are banned out here by Flashpoint.
Right.
And really what that says to me is Flashpoint lost that last game harder than they've lost kind of the other matches that they've been playing. They're up on top.
I don't think we've seen them get stomped much yet.
Right, and even when they have lost, it's been close. That was not close.
Right.
And Flashpoint went, we'll watch the VOD later. We don't really know what's up.
Sure.
But just ban that nonsense out, and we'll try to take a better approach this time. Because if that's the one comp that's beaten us in what, 9 weeks?
Yeah.
Sure, let's ban it out and we'll figure it out. But for now, let's just go against something we can control.
OutCold trusting Prime on this Scylla pick. A god that's been around for a long time, and a player that's been doing real well for a long time. So I love that combination together. And then Susano and Fenrir, so 2 assassins to round out the comp, which makes me think this must be a Fenrir going for Fusify in the support role.
I think so. Susano is certainly going to go into the hands. Although Fenrir has been changed a little bit to allow him to play in the jungle.
Yes.
Susano is that high-profile jungler that we expect Johnny to be on.
I think so too. Tons of carry potential there as Serqet rounds out the draft for OutCold to head over into the jungle. But let's go ahead and get into the game too, man. I'm not going to delay you guys any further from getting to see the action. Flashpoint up against OutCold, and it's Aggro and Toli on the call.
Thank you, Finch and Tom. OutCold looking to keep their momentum going as they punched up in Game 1 and beat the top seed in the European Minor League. Coming all the way from the bottom, though. Again, as Toli mentioned, you don't really expect this team to be near the bottom. Draft's a little bit different this time around. Flashpoint with some very heavy bans against what OutCold played last game.
Oh yeah, the Achilles, the Jormungandr, even the Zhang Kui had a PrettyPriMe, forcing him to go into this surprising Scylla pick, a proxy between the Tier 1 Tier 2 as a Bellona. Haven't seen it in a little bit, but not too uncommon.
Fusify brought a lot of creeps here. That might actually be helping him a bit as Dimi's able to get that proxy going. Saying they might be helping him a bit just because it gives him more targets to be getting his runes off of, but it didn't end up actually mattering for him. It looked like a very potentially scary start.
Risky.
OutCold kind of go 2 for 2, totally. The proxy works and they secure their own speed.
Because if the minions last hit it, you don't get the buff either.
Yeah.
That is like one of the worst feelings. It's like less than a 1% chance to happen, but when it does, man, does it feel bad. And that would have favored out the Fenrir specifically trying to steal away the speed buff. It doesn't matter if you get it, it just making sure that the enemy jungler doesn't get it.
All prevention is the play. This Scylla pick for OutCold is one that surprises me totally. Most of the time we see Scylla, and it's because there's a ton of CC. I mean, I'm talking, we've got Naja, we've got Kumbhakarna, we've got a Geb or something like that, a Thor. I don't really see it here for this comp. I mean, I feel like Prime's got a lot of pressure on him to kind of do it all.
I can see that, but you only need one setup. And if that's one setup is FrostiaK that has the Cobra's Kiss into the Last Breath into any big mage ultimate inserted here, and you're gonna find the kill. And if that big mage ultimate is a resettable mage ultimate like Scylla's is, then you're probably gonna find multiple kills.
Plus, the cripple is pretty good here against the Susano and the Fenrir and the Wukong, and I mean, the cripple's just really good. Sikkim is Scylla's best ability, and I don't think it gets the credit. Everyone talks about Crush and
I
the
think
ult.
Crush is pretty good.
Crush is really good. Sikkim is nuts. It's an AoE root cripple that does 1,000,000 damage.
It's a lot harder to confirm Sikkim as opposed to Crush, though. And one Crush during a siege, and all of a sudden that hunter or that mage that you hit the Crush with is just out of the fight.
Yeah, but if you hit him with a Sikkim, they have to beads and probably Aegis.
But you can't Sikkim over a wall.
No,
That's
you can't.
The difference.
That is a big difference. I'm just talking if I'm hitting Sikkims, then I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot most of the time as Scylla. Works here against Fusify, though not before he gets most of his damage off. Hayzer might have a stun coming. FrostiaK on the way as well. Blink in, looking for first blood onto Fusify, and PrettyPriMe is going to get it. There's
with the Crush.
With the Crush.
There we go.
He stopped the Brutalize earlier on.
But
First blood
he confirmed all the
going OutCold's way. Blue buff invade, unsuccessful by Dimi, but certainly attempted. He's been poking Sibi out all day so far today. FrostiaK on his way over as well. But with Sibi so far under tower and no blink for Frosty, I don't think this is a kill.
No, definitely not. If FrostiaK had Last Breath, guaranteed kill every single day of the week. But Sibi, with his own blue buff this time, not under any real jeopardy, as Dimi doesn't even need that blue buff to be useful in the laning phase. Great kill, honestly, onto Fusify. That got a little bit too aggressive. Also, great positioning from PrettyPriMe. He hugs the wall opposite of the side of where Fusify came from, so it just gave him more of a window to still retreat under the tower. The Sikkim was a little bit late there, sure, but still that little bit of damage started to add up. Fusify only sitting at level 3, not as tanky as he hopes.
This composition for Flashpoint this time around feels much more early game aggressive. I mean, it's not in the jungle because Susano, I think, is one of the slowest starting junglers. Not quite Kali, but not as far as I think a lot of people think. He really does take a long time to ramp up to his full potential, but once he gets there, he's an absolute nightmare in the mid to late game. Fenrir much more aggressive, though. I think Merlin much more aggressive than the Agni at times. I feel like Flashpoint just don't want to find themselves in that same hole that they had in Game 1.
They're trying to control more space, right? The Susano can certainly do that. Merlin as well is trying to really start locking people down. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Gem of Isolation coming from FaraKrik if he opts for it later. As opposed to that last game, right? Like, Bakasura has a lot of AoE damage, but he doesn't have much control. Like, he has a cripple on Bakasura, which actually was a good pick into the Terra, the Achilles, which I thought was going to work out a little bit more, but OutCold Gaming getting too many objectives for Flashpoint to handle in that Game 1. But Game 2, Dzoni on the Susano, he's looking for those multiple knockups to really start setting up FaraKrik and Kespainify.
Quick ult there by Sibi in response to FrostiaK's blink, but Frosty's okay with that trade. I mean, you're getting his ultimate and you still get his blue because he knows he can't come in to contest once that Somersault Cloud is down. Dzoni not there that time around, and now he dashes right in to where FrostiaK is. Last Breath does apply, but I don't know if they adds the damage totally. I think they're a bit short, about 2 ticks worth And so Dzoni does end up escaping. Of course, he uses his own ultimate, but a little bit of unfortunate timing, I would say, for him, because he dashed straight towards where FrostiaK was, but that was all a plan laid by OutCold. They have a ward on those back camps.
The last breath being disjointed after the beats jet stream away, not able to follow Dzoni all the way through, but FrostiaK doesn't really mind at the end of the day. Yet again, forcing out Purification Beats. He forces out Sibi's ultimate soul lane, forces out Purification Beats from Dzoni next to his own back camps. And there's that window. You know that these SML teams are communicating when those beats were popped, when that Wukong ultimate was used, to go for round 2 later.
FrostiaK does need to be careful, though, because without his own form of CC immunity, you know, Fusify is going to be hunting for him on this Fenrir. He's really the primary target. Fafnir can be really, really difficult to pick up as long as he has the ultimate up, or he's already in the ultimate, because if he starts de-transforming, then he can't be picked up either.
You just have to know whether or not that ultimate is not available. And that's the only time you can really go on to Hayzer's Fafnir. But Fusify still not able to find those right targets. His one initial attempt at a gank onto PrettyPriMe really heavily backfired. Maybe that's what's causing him to hesitate a little bit in this mid lane. But Flashpoint more concerned about getting their own farm, and they got to worry about Dimi's rotation as well.
Speed buff's up, but Dzoni's going to be able to get that one in time, especially with FaraKrik and Fusify zoning. It's really more about this blue buff. Much less risky for OutCold to go for it. They look primed and ready. Jump in from Fusify. He's looking for FrostiaK. FrostiaK getting low, and FaraKrik will put OutCold, its jungler, in the grave. PrettyPriMe very low as well. Dzoni might be able to keep this chase going, but no blink for him. Prime kind of juking around as Fusify needs to do the same on the south side. Dimi looking for the finishing blow, but can't find it, as Prime continues to play Ring Around the Rosie with Dzoni by that blue buff. OutCold's invade attempt is not going well so far.
Still think that OutCold Gaming can final as Hayzer gets pulled in, able to barely jump away and uses the shell. Dzoni going to be looking for him on the back end. Dimi going to get slowed out by Sibi, not able to find that cleanup kill. And at the end of the day, Flashpoint get a 2 for nothing and still hold on to their blue buff.
Yeah, FrostiaK just can't be in stun range at that point, right? Oh, FrostiaK actually was looking for Fusify to get some revenge, but ulted a creep instead by accident. It happens to the best of us. Now FrostiaK actually taking a lot of damage from Dzoni. Man, already Susano starting to put on the hurt. But as we mentioned, he's got no Purification Beats totally. He can't be in range to get stunned.
It just mattered who was going to engage first. Fusify lands on FrostiaK with the stun into the Ragnarok. No way FrostiaK lives there. Even with Dimi trying to zone as best as he can with the Eagles rally on top of FaraKrik, forcing beads onto that Merlin, it still was plenty of damage to get that initial pick. Without Serqet damage, without the last breath, that rest of the fight was just destined to fail.
Yeah, I mean, Dimi does what he can, but FaraKrik's already fired off his damage. It's fire and forget damage in the form of Blizzard, and if he maybe tried to change to fire and burn him down with the 1, maybe that could have worked. I mean, Dimi certainly does his job from that position, but again, I think that's just a positioning woe from OutCold. Ends up costing them a bit, but not too much. I mean, they're still in the lead at this point, though it is very slight. The problem is, I think, that Dimi's not getting off to the same sort of, I mean, huge lead that he had in the last one.
It comes down to not being able to successfully strip away the blue buff the way he did in game 1, and also there was no solo kill this time around.
Yeah.
Sibi died, I think it was level 7, maybe level 8 when he was trying to fight into the Jormungandr and a minion wave. This time there's just fights that he's been able to win, being part of 2 assists already 9 minutes in.
Big grouping on these right mid harpies by Flashpoint as Kespainify and Spudio. Gonna start duking it out a bit on this left-hand side. Dimi thinking about proxying, but will turn for a target onto Sibi. Sibi again uses the ultimate to make sure he doesn't get CC changed by FrostiaK, though FrostiaK shot's a bit off the mark. This is a beautiful proxy farm by Dimi, but it might be putting him in some trouble because look at the help that is coming. Dimi underneath the tier 2 does use the ultimate, but it's still not enough. Dzoni's able to get that kill, crush there to zone as Spudio and Kespainify trade ults on the left-hand side. Thought the proxy might work for Dimi, but he's just a little bit too slow on getting out of dangers. Hayzer might still be in some. Prime there. Horrific Emblem was used by Fusify as they're trying to catch up to the support. Dzoni hanging around the corner, but That might be it.
Just looking for a pull out of that tier 1 tower, but OCG are expecting that every single day. Not going to be caught slipping there. Caught slipping under that blue buff was Dimi, too ambitious. He had a 1-level lead. Now it's all tied up between him and Sibi. Not able to really exploit the Sun Wukong they were able to in game number 1. So the rotations from Flashpoint are abusing the aggression from OutCold Gaming. They need to start worrying about different angles that they can approach from, because it's not working at the blue buff any longer.
And it's not just that Dimi isn't ahead and that Sibi's ahead or even. It's really that Dzoni isn't behind either, because Johnny's there for all of these blue buff invades and he's getting them for his team as Spudio 2 autos short of a solo kill onto Kespainify. Dzoni on the way. No ultimate available for Spudio for at least a little bit longer. Jetstream bit off the mark. Comes that Typhoon. Beads used by Spudio. Instead of just dashing away when that knockup came, was it on cooldown?
I think he must have used it trying to do more damage onto Kespainify. That's my only logical conclusion. Without airstrike, there was no way he was going to get out of that one.
Good attempt to try and turn and burn, but Spudio does end up falling. FrostiaK, no blink available, and he won't be able to catch Kespainify even without relics. I don't think he had mana to ult either, so FrostiaK probably a bit frustrated that he couldn't get that one. But yeah, as I was saying, in game 1, not only were the blue buff invades successful because it sets Sibi behind, but that also sets Dzoni behind. That's Johnny's farm, and now he's getting it every time, and it's made a big difference for him. He's ahead of FrostiaK by a considerable amount.
Working for a Hydra's Lament, trying to proc more damage off of his basic attacks between those abilities. Certainly can do so with the Storm Kata. Doing plenty of burst damage, and this level 11 Susano is going to start hurting. That 10% cooldown reduction going to be felt, as well as the basic attacks, whereas FrostiaK struggling a little bit. With the blink, he's been exploited once thus far. I'm surprised it hasn't been more.
This blue buff invade will be successful. Hayzer, the only contributing member outside of Dimi, to make the rotation over. That's because Johnny's on the left-hand side, maybe looking to punish Spudio for not having purification beads at this point. Red buff invade successful as FrostiaK gonna get gobbled up and brought straight to the clutches of Kespainify, but FrostiaK's had a much better escape this time around. Prime's damage not enough to bring down Fusify yet, but he's dead to the dot. But Prime does end up getting that kill. Stun onto Dzoni will stop his aggression. There's many pings onto Sibi. Dimi tracking him all the way.
Still a 5-on-4 advantage. Fusify dead for 15 seconds. Unfortunate for Fusify that all of his allies were too far to the left side of the map after the stun. You could tell that he hesitated after he jumped stunned on top of FrostiaK. He's like, oh, I actually hit the stun. Let me Ragnarok and get him to my allies. But the shell was also a big important factor as Hayzer popped that during the Ragnarok, allowing FrostiaK just enough of a window to escape.
That time Frosty's able to get away, and now he's probably a lot happier because of it. Dimi is working towards a winged blade, I'd imagine here.
Looks like it.
Could be Witchblade as well, but I imagine the slows are what he's more worried about, as Spudio eats a couple slows. That hastened ring for Kespainify, really making sure that he catches up quickly and is able to get the airstrike away for basically nothing.
If it is the winged blade from Dimi, this leads me to believe his target is going to be FaraKrik. Just use that Eagle's Rally on him and chase him till the end of the world. You're going to get hit by the Blizzard or the Ice Blast that's going to allow you to chase even further, faster. Also maybe to dive Kespainify, as long as you're able to juke out that Banish. Wouldn't be a bad look. You're just going to need some magical defense to pair up with the health you get from that item.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are a lot of slows on Flashpoint for sure, so I certainly wouldn't mind a Winged Blade here. I mean, Freya is now a slow-heavy character that you have to worry about, as Spudio. Good agility off the Wind Siphon, sets him up. But Freya's a pretty slow-heavy character now. Of course, Sibi has one as Fusify looking for Hayzer. He'll get him, and Hayzer dead. Not before he gets the ultimate off, but Typhoon will certainly clean that up. And FrostiaK actually blinked in to that Typhoon damage. He doesn't get a chance to really affect the fight. Is now Prime on the run, but Johnny's got him dead to rights. Kespainify got Spudio as well with that Valkyrie's Discretion. And OutCold kind of walk into oncoming traffic and end up getting flattened.
FrostiaK not able to make the presence that a Serqet jungler needs with that blink. It's been happened before. Dimi, though, caught between a rock and a hard place in a 1v4. Flashpoint weren't even on the Gold Fury. They were anticipating that rotation the whole time.
much, much better for Flashpoint this time around. Much, much worse for OutCold. These are kind of the games that we've seen from OutCold more often than not so far in this phase, or these games where they have a couple good moments, but the synergy just doesn't seem to be there. They're all kind of going in at different times. FrostiaK's had a real tough game in comparison to game 1, where he looked great on the Achilles. This Serqet has really struggled.
It just comes down to, yet again, which team engages first, on whose terms. Flashpoint, Fusify, stuns out Hayzer, Ragnarok's him, forces out the ultimate, Typhoon able to seal the deal. Hayzer doesn't even have timing of a window to pop the shell this time to keep his own life alive. FrostiaK blinks in at the worst possible moment. Not sure if he even knew that Typhoon was being channeled behind that wall.
Prime needs to dash away. Root just a bit short onto Fusify. Dzoni was there lurking, level 15 on that Susano, as Sibi on the receiving end of a last breath on the right-hand side. That'll shut down his healing for about half the duration. Nice blink just before that shield bash hit. That'll get Sibi out of there. It is a winged blade for Dimi. He also was able to pick up an emerald talisman in that same back. He had quite a bit of gold in the pocket whenever he got sent back to base, so plenty more HP than the last time he left base.
Probably he's going to finish that to become a Pestilence, limit some of the healing that Fusify is going to get, the self-healing that Sibi's going to hit. Looking like another blue buff invade. Nothing that Flashpoint can really do about it, but as long as they're winning the fights, getting the gold furies, they're saying to OutCold Gaming, yeah, you can have all our blue buffs.
Right now it feels like OutCold, in my mind, if I'm on OutCold and I'm playing Scylla, I'm in prime shoes. First of all, I'm sick if this is the case. Secondly, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me. I basically have to insta-kill Susano in these fights. He doesn't have Aegis. He's very susceptible to my 1. And he's really the whole lead for Flashpoint at this point. As FrostiaK now Deathbane's away. Dimi picked up. Thorns used to return a bit of damage, and his up-down doesn't find a whole lot of purchase. But Sibi, again, the one on the receiving end, and FrostiaK gets the kill, but it was Prime's damage with the Eye of a Monster that got it done. Dimi still alive and on the run. And look at that, FrostiaK gets a bit of value and is able to contribute, and just like that, OutCold win a fight.
Very difficult to lock down a Bellona that's level 15, even without this much magical defense. Now it's going to be the Pyromancer. OutCold Gaming confirm it, but they are a little bit low. Hayzer de-transforming, Kespainify taking advantage.
Tries to jump away. Dzoni was off the mark with that Wind Siphon. Beautiful Deathbane set up by the Cobra's Kiss by FrostiaK as he got a set of beads. Pulled him out of FaraKrik. And just like that, OutCold is back to within a strikeable distance, I would say.
Fusify got the target that I guess he wanted, which was Dimi. Like, the first couple of kills that Fusify targeted between FrostiaK, successful. Hayzer, successful. Dimi's Bellona, not so much. Even with the separation that Flashpoint had after the Ragnarok ended, you saw Dimi go up and down on the Eagles rally, and everyone out of Flashpoint knew it was going to happen. They split like the Red Sea, couldn't even find his home, but it didn't matter because Dimi just too much of a tank spudge to find the kill. And you were mentioning how PrettyPriMe would need to come in clutch onto Dzoni, but instead it was onto Sibi in that engagement.
Beautiful by him. Spudio again gets the ultimate force by Kespainify. Never been a big fan of Hasten Ring on Freya, but he's making it look good here. FrostiaK gets picked up, and Dzoni was still on the run that entire time. Beads were available for FrostiaK, but he held him close. Good calling the bluff there of Fusify, basically.
Yeah, Kespainify was split pushing in that tier 1 tower in the dual lane. Without the Freya damage, at most, you're getting FaraKrik and Dzoni's damage. Once you see one or the other, that's when you're probably purifying. So yeah, that patience was very nice for FrostiaK.
The bad news for OutCold is that FaraKrik's up 2 levels right now over PrettyPriMe. He's been able to farm pretty efficiently, and most of the time by himself. Dimi on a rotation, could be looking for something in the mid lane. But going back to that last fight by Pyromancer, that I feel like that's all just because FaraKrik doesn't have any pen at that point. I mean, he wasn't able to change into Fire Stance. Dimi had Emerald Talisman at that point, and a ton of HP, and just natural base stats for Bellona, which are very high because of her passive, so you end up getting a lot of extra protection. Dimi too wise to get caught by that trap. once FaraKrik gets some pen online, it'll be much easier to burn Dimi.
Yeah, the utility style from FaraKrik with the cooldown reduction and the Shaman's Ring, wanting to build up those stacks as quickly as possible to receive that 10% damage amplification later makes sense, but that's basically the reason why Dimi survived. Not having that much magical defense didn't matter when there's no real magical penetration to worry about. Also, Kespainify, I'm not sure if how many times he got off a couple of hits utilizing that demonic grip passive.
Flashpoint towards the Primal Fury. They've got great objective damage, so it won't take them long. Hayzer surging forward, Fusify in the ultimate, but Dimi not the turn. FrostiaK gonna blink in as well and just bait out that Typhoon, but that hits Prime. Takes a sizable chunk out of his HP. Prime now up in the eye of a monster, looking for the setup, but he didn't need it. Fusify already dead. Sibi down to just a sliver of HP before he got up into the cloud and received some much needed healing. But OutCold off to a great start in this team fight. Don't want to let it go. Sprint popped as well. Kespainify needs to use some relics. Whoop is good. Valkyrie discretion there as well, but seems like delaying the inevitable. Aegis right on top, but Spudio able to claim the life of the enemy hunter. 2-0 OutCold Gaming stopped the Fury attempt and now can get it for themselves. A Primal Fury left open, still looking for a little bit of a trap. Hayzer anticipating Sibi's rotation, missing out the stun. PrettyPriMe looking for the follow-up. Primal Fury less than 50% health. Sibi gonna blink in and then give it up. That was the last-ditch effort. I've got no problem with that. It looks a little bit weird, but you're hoping that Prime kind of drops Crush and tries to detonate it right away because you're blinking, and just didn't end up happening. OutCold with another good team fight. This is the difference, I think, between week 2 to 6 or so and now week 8 OutCold Gaming, is that I think they probably would have folded under this kind of pressure before. Now they seem to be working much better as a unit. They haven't gotten discouraged at all, and they're continuing to try and play their game plan, which is bait out Fusify's engagement and then counter-engage off of it. And it started to work. I mean, this game was not out of hand, but certainly in Flashpoint's favor. Now it's completely even.
The common theme of occurrence between the Pyromancer and that Primal Fury engagement was the lackluster ultimates from Fusify. Dimi was the target during the Pyromancer, not fruitful. The second time around on the Primal Fury, he wasn't able to get anybody. Everyone out of OutCold Gaming was separating pretty well. And not only that, once the Ragnarok ended, everyone from OutCold, FrostiaK drops the last breath. You can tell PrettyPriMe wanted it with the ultimate on a monster, but instead lands onto Sibi, which actually worked out, keeping him out of the fight. And without your Fenrir support to do any sort of damage, that was a 5-on-4 fight that OutCold Gaming kept pressuring.
Dimi just getting tankier and tankier to the magical. Looks like that's going to be an Oni Hunter's garb. Could be a Genji's. Could even be a
Shogun's.
Yeah. FrostiaK on the pickup this time. No beads for him. No, he did have them, just didn't use them. Decided against it, and it actually ends up working out. Last breath should tick away Kespainify. Indeed it will. Takes him down from the sky, and Spudio is just putting in pot shots right now into Fusify and to FaraKrik. Spudio picks his target and snipes him out with a beautiful persistent gust and lets Dimi take care of Fusify. Won't be able to get the killing blow, but certainly good enough damage. 2 kills. And FrostiaK, I mean, he goes for a ride.
I know.
Willingly.
I was going to mention that in the first time, how patient he's been, which goes against his normal characteristics. Normally, he's very impatient and likes to make plays, but by him not using these, that's him making a play. That's him getting closer to use his whole Serqet kit.
CC chain perfect for OutCold. Sibi now going to pay the ultimate price for trying to steal away that objective. Spudio gets his 3rd in a row after an 0-2 start for the OutCold Hunter. Fire Giant goes OutCold Gaming's way as well. And the teamwork just seems to be really starting to click for this squad.
This last fight, 3-0. That previous one around Primal Fury was a 2-0. It was 8-3 before these last 2 fights, which happened within less than a 3-minute span. OutCold Gaming surviving through that early to mid-game pressure. Flashpoint was using Fusify's ultimates that started to slowly become less effective. Now with Fire Giant for themselves can start controlling even more objectives. About 4,000 gold worth of towers remain.
Feels like Johnny's been 4-0 for 12 minutes now. I mean, he got off to a really hot start, and ever since it's just been really neutralized. And I agree, I think a lot of it has been on the back of these lackluster initiations from Fusify that have kind of put Flashpoint on the back foot to start every engagement.
Pushing the tier 1 tower with the Fire Giant. And without the Susano finding additional kills, it puts more pressure onto Fusify, trying to do whatever he can. The ultimate for Johnny on the defense.
He was trying to steal away the purple buff on the left-hand side. Fusify gonna jump in. It's time to get out that ultimate from Hayzer. Now tries to pick him up, but actually whiffs, and he's gonna get whiff punished pretty heavily. Dimi right in that front line with those Thors, returning plenty of damage to the magical damage dealers who just can't chew through all that magic protection that Dimi has built. Blink in from FrostiaK. I'm a monster there as well. On top of that last breath, Sibi down to just a sliver of HP, and airstrike will put him in the dirt. Spudio with another one, 4 in a row now for the Hunter as the tier 2 tower falls.
That was a heavy investment onto the Sun Wukong, but it doesn't matter when you can have a 5-on-4 under this middle Phoenix. PrettyPriMe is a little low. It could stop them from sieging the middle Phoenix, but 2 more towers remain on the left-hand side, and with Sibi being dead for another 30 seconds, Flashpoint have to be mindful about how they defend.
Looks like OutCold even going to go as far as to get the wave all the way back by where their tier 1 once stood. Won't need it for the tier 1, maybe for the tier 2 if they want to keep that siege going. Prime certainly does need to be careful though. No ultimate, no relics for him, and his Book of the Dead proc on cooldown.
Problem for OutCold Gaming is that this Fire Giant is not the enhanced Fire Giant. It was secured before the 25-minute mark, so without the mini wave, it becomes a little more difficult. Sibi now respawn, having teleport, could play defense. You're down about 9,000 gold. It's doable.
Fusify looking for more. Hayzer again the target, but Kespainify going to get tossed back by FrostiaK's initiation. Johnny finds Prime all by himself on the back line though, and Kespainify is safe with that Valkyrie's discretion. That should be enough to send OutCold packing. And indeed it is. FrostiaK very low, but he will complete his back. I don't know if the rest of OutCold's going to be quite as lucky. Johnny on the Susano can cover plenty of ground if they want to keep the fight going.
Yeah, can we look at gold in hand? I'm curious how much OutCold was currently sitting on. A decent amount, I would say, collectively over 4,500, closer to 5,000 gold. And I think the hesitation to go for the tier 2 tower is what ultimately led to Flashpoint's success. If FrostiaK just straight up commits to the tier 2 tower with the rest of the team, they probably get it.
Yeah.
Because that allowed Sibi to start rotating and make a presence on that team fight, and that would have forced Flashpoint to try to defend 4-on-5 instead.
Yeah, I kind of just like getting the tier 1 and then going for Gold Fury. I mean, Prime in particular, I think, has to be pretty vocal there that, look, I'm in a lot of danger, and Hayzer has to be there to peel for me, but he can't be because Fusify's picking him up. Dimi then needs to initiate on the back line in order to make sure that they don't insta-kill the support, and that leaves you without any peel on the back line. It was really just well done in my mind from Flashpoint, but I don't disagree that the call may have been a bit ambitious from OutCold in that position, but doesn't hurt them too much. I mean, they lose a Gold Fury because of it. That does catch Flashpoint up a little bit, and I mean, they're only down 6,000 gold at this point. That's not too bad for Flashpoint. This is still certainly in their grasp.
But they certainly can't give up this next enhanced Fire Giant. That would definitely be their ultimate downfall. And as long as they can catch members slipping with Fusify's ultimate, that could be their way to secure the game off of such a great early start that they had.
FaraKrik now with the Spear of the Magus and the Obsidian Shard. Should have a much easier time chunking Dimi in these team fights. Dimi going not for a Mantle of Discord, which is such a popular option against Fenrir, because if they're burning you and you're low in his mouth, then it immediately cleanses you. Spirit Robe, I think, also very good against him for similar reasons, but instead going for the Void Shield, really wants to keep the damage up. Dimi seems to be much more invested in damage options than a lot of other solo laners.
So I like the Void Shield when Dimi's diving alongside FrostiaK, but I'm not in love with the Shogun's Kusari because you're not going to benefit that aura with Spudio because of how far invested you are to their backline. Spudio is not there to receive that attack speed benefit, so it's basically you and FrostiaK getting it. Dimi with the Berserker Shield does benefit from it, trying to proc more of those passive hits to sustain himself back up, and maybe some Scourge hits, some Shield Bash Reflect. Never a bad thing on his side. Could have been Genji's guard to get even more magical protection, that 10% cooldown reduction, not a bad thing either.
Yeah, I think you could make an argument for any of the Kusaris. Oni is very good when you're diving in the enemy team. Shogun synergizes well with Bellona's kit, and in the instance where they aren't team fighting and they're just sieging, it's very, very good. Genji's very good at getting your cooldowns back up, and those cooldowns are really, really big for Bellona, especially Scourge and Shield Bash. So, I don't know. I think you can make a pretty valid argument for any of the three. Dimi decides to go for the Shoguns. A little bit less protection, a little bit more offense. Offense onto Sibi now. CC chain solid. See ya. FrostiaK gets it up to 10 for OutCold. And that was not even a heavy investment. I mean, blink ult for Serqet for a soul laner 30 minutes in.
Textbook.
We take those.
Textbook play. OutCold Gaming 5-on-4. Starts the Fire Giant. Less than 50% health. Fusify trying to poke and prod. See if he can find anyone. FaraKrik already less than half.
This is Prime's job to secure. Fire Giant continues to get low, and it looks like nearly a reset. Fire Giant still going, and Flashpoint gonna rip it out of OutCold's hands. But OutCold gonna start ripping some lives as well. A couple members already dead. FaraKrik next on the list. Rampage for FrostiaK. And Kespainify, the hero who stole the fire, is going to be put down and just be a legend now. A deicide for OutCold. And Fire Giant be damned, they can go straight for the Titan.
OutCold Gaming, they have the game right at their hands. 5 seconds remaining for Sibi, so I think he could still play defense on the throne room. PrettyPriMe so dangerously low. You still have Somersault Cloud to be able to do the damage there. Having Aegis could allow PrettyPriMe to survive, though.
This is the way that Sibi, ooh, good idea. Stun, and then straight into the ult. Don't get any follow-up damage off. Now he's pretty vulnerable. FrostiaK there, has the last breath. Combo, not quite there. He knocks up Prime, but it's still going to be a second deicide. They've got 4 seconds before Fusify, 5 or so before Dzoni. They do lose FrostiaK, but I'm a monster there. Fusify doing his best, going to try and reset the Titan. Heads up, but better plays from OutCold Gaming, who punch up and win 2-0 from the bottom to the top. That's a huge win for OutCold.
It was just a crumble out of Flashpoint. They had the early game. They had the mid game, but the late game, Fusify trying to find Dimi was not successful. That one ultimate around Primal Fury that didn't get anybody really allowed OutCold Gaming to start controlling the pacing of the game. That last play in particular, I'm surprised Sibi just doesn't straight up defend the throne room. He got a little too ambitious trying to give up trying to defend the middle Phoenix.
Coach Hayzer subbed in for the support role. They end up taking down the top card in the European Minor League 2-0. Breeze has been playing well, man, but when you beat the top end, it's pretty impressive for you guys. Congratulations, OutCold. The sword to the desk for them to break down their impressive victory.
Thanks, Aggro. Thanks, Tolly. Finch and Tom here one more time as OutCold grab an undoubtedly just impressive victory. And, man, you said it coming in, right? This is going to be the set where we could determine if they were actually moving in those directions or not. If they were moving up here for OutCold and down for Flashpoint. Looks like we got our answer, man. OutCold are looking legit.
Yeah, absolutely. OutCold kind of finally coming together.
Right, the way we expected, right? Yes.
Can I, honestly, it's about damn time.
Sure.
I'm sorry to be so scathing, but this is kind of what we expected from the get-go, and what a team of this caliber should put out. And so seeing what's going on here, I'm happy, I'm excited, I hope we see more. And
these are two different kinds of wins, I think, as well, which is what's important to highlight. In Game 1, it was OutCold from front to back, but here in Game 2, in all honesty, it was really Flashpoint's game. It felt like, especially in that early game, man, Dzoni got off to another hot start for them in this game, but they were able to come back in the mid-game, was OutCold, and then they were kind of around the Fire Giant. They lose the Fire Giant, but win the fight. I mean, this is a gritty, tough win they got.
Exactly. This was Flashpoint kind of playing Flashpoint's game, and I think that's important because game number 1, maybe things went awry and they got away from it, and a win's a win. I'm not going to take it away, but, you know, that's just kind of things kind of spiraling out of control. Game number 2, Flashpoint largely played their game, looked strong for a majority of the time, and OutCold just took it right out from underneath them.
And what it really shows is that you should be prioritizing Dzoni, at least to some extent, because he still had a really good game, but at least he's in the realm of the deal with the bull. And you can even let something like a Merlin through for FaraKrik and still manage it with your team is what I think OutCold is showing. I mean, and take a look at OutCold's numbers. There's no one there that stands out the way that Dzoni does, right, for you in terms of that line. This is them playing very well as a team and being able to regroup. Yet again, Spudio did such a good job dealing with Kespainify's pressure in lane. I was really impressed with that. Prime stayed relevant enough to be able to come through for them when they need him and they had the setup. I mean, OutCold looks like they just might be here now.
OutCold, absolutely. Prime, just feed the Swede. This has been one of the oldest strategies in the book. Let PrettyPriMe kind of do his thing. But I'm looking at FrostiaK here in the jungle. 5-2-6, pretty average slash line, especially compared to his mid laner 4-2-6, very, very similar. But FrostiaK has historically been a very up and down player. He either he has some momentum and he's going to win you the game, or he doesn't and he's going to lose you the game. And that has been the opposite here in Season 6. FrostiaK has been much more consistent. His team has become consistent around him. And when Frosty and PrettyPriMe play for the win, they get it.
And look at Spudio, 25,000. That's the highest in the game. I mean, you and I were talking about this a little bit off camera, right? Where sometimes Spudio can feel like a great role player, like someone that you can just plug and play, and that is strong and valuable and not easy to be someone who's like that. But I think in this spot, Spudio was able to step up for this team in a big way in a lane where I think he was set up in some extents to fail, right? Into this matchup with the Freya where she's going to have pressure, and in neither game did they rotate someone over to help him out with it. He just had to deal with it and get to the point where he could help out with the team and do 25,000 damage, and he did it.
That's the beauty of the Jing way, going to be a little bit safer, have some more opportunities. You can push out a lane, you can come right back. Spudio, and I mean this, you know, a rare step-up game for him, and I mean that in a non-offensive way. He kind of always just fills in the blanks. This time he goes above and beyond, and it's really important.
Yeah, I love what we were able to see from them, and really from both these teams. So this is huge news just for the region, right? That Flashpoint's now been brought down a little bit more into striking distance for everyone because of this loss, and now you have to look over your shoulder a bit more and worry about OutCold. So man, that's going to make this next set even more important. Don't worry, we got plenty more SML EU coming your way. Get that drink refilled and get right back here.